Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about the things you ought to know about remote medical coding. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, lots of emails coming in talking about Blue. I'm going to be retiring and I want to do something remote, so I heard about medical coding and I think it would be a great job for me to work at home. Or, hey Blue, I'm really interested in just working at home so that I can be with my kids, and this is something that I heard about, so I'm thinking about doing this. So, I want to start off by saying this. I have worked remote before, so I'm speaking on experience, okay? That's number one. Number two, I'm a veteran medical coder. Again, speaking on experience. And so, the pandemic changed the way the remote coding is like they hire for remote medical coding. Before the pandemic, you had to have 3 to 5 years of experience, period. If you did not have experience, you were absolutely not getting a call to work remote. And the reason for this is a very valid reason. If you are working at home, this means that you've had experience, that you know what you're doing as far as like how to abstract diagnoses and procedures from a record, and you know how to manage and navigate in a electronic medical record. You know how to problem solve. And for a new person coming into the field with no experience, it doesn't matter if they've been a nurse before or something in the medical field, it doesn't matter. Learning medical coding is completely different. I can't say this enough. It is not as easy as you might think. And if somebody's trying to sell you medical coding and saying that it's really easy, all you have to do is just, push through the codes that are already selected by the provider, and you just push them on through, and it's just an easy, great job for you to be at home and raise your kids, or to be retired and be able to travel around. These things are used as sales tactics by the schools and by people trying to sell programs to get people to get into medical coding. Because if they told people about all the things that they have to do when they are a medical coder, it would be a harder field to sell, okay? So if you get people all hyped up on the things like remote medical coding, then maybe you can get the people excited enough to buy your program and do all of these things. So I'm not here to sell programs, okay? That's number one. And number two, I do have services. Yes, I do have my Patreon channel. I do do tutoring. I do professional coaching. I do resume writing. So there's all these things that I do, as far as like the services that I offer on my channel. But I'm not here to sell a program, okay? I got to be very clear on that. I am not here to sell a program. I don't like new people being taken advantage of. I don't, period. It makes me mad because I love this field. And I don't like to see people being taken advantage of to get into the field. So I'm here to tell you what to expect if you're thinking that you want to do this and you want to work remotely. Being a brand new medical coder is going to be completely different from what you see in those books. The way that you learned and everything that you learned from, all the books that you learned from on how to abstract diagnoses and procedures from records, these are all written by, medical coders and doctors with the right information, and very easy, so that way you can build your confidence as a brand new medical coder and you're starting to learn, and so you can take your test. But in the real world, it's going to be a lot different. Templates, like the way the provider writes out their note, it can vary from provider to provider. And electronic medical records are also different as well. So there's a lot of different things that come into play. Now, you've been used to working with books, now you have to work with the computer. And it's not just working with the electronic medical record, it's also working with the encoder. And the encoder, if you don't know, is an electronic code book, essentially, right? And so you have to factor all of these other new things that you have to learn in. And if you are a brand new medical coder and you don't have a mentor with you, that is side by side or is easily, that you can easily get to, it's going to make it a lot more difficult. I think that to develop as a strong medical coder, you need to have a good mentor to be around so that you can see what they're doing, you can emulate their actions, because it's very important did you get the right building blocks when you're first starting? Because if you don't get those right building blocks when you're first starting, meaning that you have somebody that you can count on and go to that's going to help you to understand what's actually happening, you can run screaming for the hills, you know. A lot of people would do that, you know. And then there's some people that are going to stay in the fight, and they're going to stay there, and they're like, no, I'm going to learn this, and they're very stubborn, like me. And you know, those are the types of people that end up staying, okay? But for a vast majority of them, they're just going to run, because it's not, to them, they're going to see that it's not worth it to put all this effort in, when in actuality it is. You just have to be a little patient with yourself, and you got to, you know, put yourself in a success setup, okay? You want to be set up for success. You don't want to set yourself up to fail. So before the pandemic happened, you had to have 3 to 5 years. Since the pandemic, they did need medical coders during that time. So they did allow people to get hired on, work remotely as brand new medical coders with no experience. They are still doing this. However, sometimes they're training them at the facility for like 3 months and then sending them home, which that is okay. That I feel much better with, rather than somebody just being sent a computer and then, here, go ahead, deep into the pool, and now you figure it out. You know, that's enough to, you know, frustrate anybody, right? Or scare anybody off. So for those people who do get hired on, and this is their first time working remote, there's a lot of places that will send a computer. I've worked remotely a couple times, and both times I had equipment from the company that was sent to me, or I brought it. When the pandemic happened, I brought my computer home from work, and I had to sign it out and everything. And so, but the company that I worked for previously was a level 1 trauma hospital, and they sent me a laptop, and they sent me two big monitors. So I had multiple screens, and I could, you know, use those multiple screens when I'm coding, because you do typically need a minimum of 2 screens to be, you know, able to efficiently move from the electronic code book to the medical record itself to whatever you're entering, wherever you're entering your information in. So sometimes you're working with multiple systems, and sometimes you're working with multiple programs. That's another thing you got to keep in mind. But some people say, well, when I'm working at home, I won't have to get dressed. I won't have to deal with the drama of the office. Not so. If you are at home, you should get dressed like you're going to the office, even though who's going to see you? You never know, especially if they're having you keep your camera on, or maybe they're going to like spontaneously call you so that you have to be on camera. You want to make sure that you're ready at all times. This is a business. This is not, hey, I just want to lounge around and do whatever. No, this is a business, so you need to be prepared and ready at all times. When I worked at home during the pandemic, I still got up, I still got dressed, I still made sure I put my makeup on, I still made sure that I wore a dress. And when I was called on video conference, they were like, Bleu, you're dressed, and you know, we would have team meetings, and I'm like, yeah, you know. They're like, well, I just rolled out of bed. That, to me, in my mind, in order for me to get into work mode, I need to be dressed in work mode. You got to bring your A game when you are at work, and I feel like that makes it easier for me to get into that mindset, you know. But everybody's different, you know, and but I would say that because it does affect you after a while, because you are alone by yourself. And when you're by yourself, you don't have people coming in and out of your office, right? But you still don't miss out on the drama, you know, for people who think that, oh, I can work remotely so that I don't have to deal with office drama. Not so. When you are typing out emails, you may say that you are typing it out a certain way, but somebody else on the receiving end of that may misinterpret what you're saying, and it is very easy to misinterpret what people say in email. Now, this didn't happen to me, but I've seen it happen. At the company that I worked for previously, the level 1 trauma hospital, I did see a blow up, if you will, during a virtual meeting, because somebody misinterpreted somebody else's email. And because of that, you know, that person got really upset. The other person was trying to explain that that was not their intention, and it was just a whole fiasco. And all hurt feelings because somebody misunderstood somebody else's writing. And so if you are working at home, you need to make sure that you are on your A game when it comes to writing. Because if you are not in that office and you're not meeting those providers face to face, it makes it much more difficult to build relationships. And I talk about building relationships with providers all the time on my channel because it is so important. This is a part that a lot of medical coders miss because they think that, oh, well, all I have to do is send them a query, and if they don't answer, then that's their hard luck. No. A lot of times providers will get that kind of communication with a coder and then assume that all coders are the same way. I have changed hearts and minds with my providers because of just being there and being a presence. And when it was a pandemic and I was at home, I was getting calls, Blue, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? When are you coming back? And so I'm like, I'm coming back. They were like, it's different if you're not here. And I saw that. I saw them go completely off the rails because I wasn't there. Even though I'm sending them emails, I'm telling them, guys, I'm still here for you. You know, it's not the same as being physically in a place. And so that there is a difference there when you miss out on that part in your development as a medical coder, building those relationships with providers. And for those that say, well, no, I'm too scared, you have to get over that fear. I mean, because to me, it's part of what we do. You have to be a teammate with your provider in order to really understand what they're saying in this documentation. Because just like the person who misinterpreted somebody else's email and there was a huge blow up, it is the same way that you can misinterpret a provider's documentation, okay, without talking to them and clarifying what they're saying. So that's something that you have to really consider. You have to be very good on your written game. You have to secure a place. A lot of times you are not going to be able to just be, you know, anywhere. You have to be in a secure location. They're going to want to know where their computers are at. They are going to want to know that you are in a safe place and that this information is not going to be shown to everybody. This is why I will never, ever, ever, ever do a like an example of actually coding a chart. People have asked me, they go, well, can't you just blur out? No, I will never code in front of you guys an actual chart, because to me, I'm not even going to risk anything. I will never risk patient information just to demonstrate what I can do. I've done plenty of example shows where I'm writing out a scenario and I walk through it. I've done that many times, but people don't watch those shows. But they're there. So, but anyway, you want to think about the safety of the information. So when you're setting up your office space, sometimes companies will tell you, you know, of course, if you have an office space in your house, that would be great. If you are going to use a room, it needs to be a secure room with a door that can close. They tell you, you know, that you need to, you know, keep the area to yourself. So what I would recommend, if you're going to set up at the house, that you have your monitors facing the wall so that no one can walk up behind you and just look over at your screen. And even if you say, well, I just have kids and teenagers in the house and this doesn't matter to them. No, but you wouldn't want somebody just walking by willy-nilly looking at your record, would you? I mean, even if you had a very private appointment with a provider, would you want somebody else walking around looking at your stuff? No. So you need to always consider how you would feel with your records. So make sure that you have your monitors facing the wall so nobody can walk up behind you. And, you know, make sure that wherever you're at, that you have access to everything that you need in that one area so that you're not running back and forth to do anything else that you need, like water or whatever. You have everything that you need in your space when you're working. And that would make it a lot more inviting. You want a good chair, you want a good ergonomic friendly desk so that you don't hurt yourself. I mean, we talked a couple weeks ago about staying healthy as a medical coder. And, you know, if you're working at home, And that's that's the only place that you're at. You have to make sure that you get up, that you stretch, and that you are set up, your desk is ergonomically friendly set up, so that you don't hurt your wrists, or you don't, have any other things happen because you weren't comfortable in your area. Those are some of the things. But working it remotely, a lot of people think it's great, and if you've never worked remotely, I think you might be surprised on how lonely it does get. I'm not a lonely person, but when it was the pandemic, I did not realize how accustomed to noise and chaos I had gotten in my time working at the facility. So when the pandemic started and I was at home and it was so quiet, and I was thinking, at first I was thinking, oh, this is going to be great, it's going to be quiet, and I'll be able to concentrate. I could not concentrate to save myself. Now, this wasn't because of it's a pandemic, maybe that had something to do with it, but it was because it was so quiet that I could not concentrate. So I had to turn the TV on, I had to have some kind of noise in the back so that I could start concentrating again, because I'm so used to having my door open and providers coming in and out and talking to me and people laughing and talking in the hallway, that, having just nothing but silence it really messed with me, for a time. So I would not want to go back to working remotely. If people would ask me, do you recommend it? I would say no, because I think you miss out on a lot. But I know that there's some good and flexibility with working remote, as far as like some people say, well, I'm doing where I'm working in the office for like 2 days and then I'm at home for 3 days, or I'm at, the office for 1 day out of the week. That would be a good compromise, because then you get some kind of socialization and you also get to be around your providers. They have access to you. And I think that when we have so much of this disconnection of, well, we can do everything remotely and we're not getting that human interaction and everything is in front of a computer, I think that does something to us as as humans in humanity, that is not good. We still need to have those socialization skills. There's a lot of people who don't have those good social skills. There's a lot of people that don't have that. And so, there's a case to be made for both sides, right? For being at home remote and for working in the facility. There's a good case for both sides. But again, if you have experience, it's okay, working at home and being remote, because you're going to know how to find your resources. You're going to know how to problem solve, which is key to working remote. You have to know how to problem solve. That is one of the things that a lot of people do lack. And the reason that I say that is because I get a lot of questions where it's very easy to find those answers and people still will ask me the question. And so it's about finding your resources, knowing how to use the coding clinics, knowing how to use CPT Assistant, knowing where to find things in the Merck manual. And those are the things that you have to do when you are working remotely. When you're working in the facility and you're brand new, it's good because, again, you can talk to providers, you can talk to other medical coders, and you have that experience of being in the facility. But it gets quiet, when you're working at home by yourself. And some people can do it and some people just can't, so really it's a personal preference. And I'm not saying either way, okay? But what I am saying is what I recommend, which is if you're brand new, you really need to be in the facility and you really need to reconsider if you're just getting into medical coding just so that you can work remotely. And whatever reason you have, that's up to you. You don't have to say anything to me about it. But what I'm saying is this: when you are brand new people, really need to be in the facility, because sometimes when you're being trained through these programs that are fast, like less than 6 months, and then you want to work at home remotely immediately, you're missing so much. You miss out on so much development. And I think that, it's just something that people need to think about before they start doing this. Okay. But some of the positive things, of course, about being, remote is that if it's bad weather outside, you don't have to worry about traveling, and you don't have to worry about a commute. You can save that commute time. Saving commute time is, that was one of the benefits, that I said, is, hey, I can just get up and be ready in 30 minutes, and instead of, getting up a whole hour beforehand. So it was nice to get a little bit of extra sleep, but to me, I would still, the trade-off of having to drive for that extra sleep, I would have done again and again. But that's just what I have to say about that. Like I said, it's not all it's cracked up to be, guys. You still have to treat it like you're going into the office, okay? And you can't get distracted by kids, and you say, well, I can watch my kids while I'm at home. You still have to maintain your productivity and your accuracy. So while you're trying to chase around your kids, that clock's ticking. And you can't be working off the clock. You got to work when you're there. And when you're on the clock, they're going to expect you to be there. They can run reports to see where you're at. As far as if you've been in a record for too long, they're going to send you a question. Hey, we noticed you were in this record for 50 minutes, 50. What were you doing? This record wasn't that hard. It was an appendectomy. What's going on? So that's another thing that, you can't just sit here and say, oh, I can run out and I can go to the store real quick and run errands and come back and do no. They need your attention. They're paying you for your time. You need to be there. I'm just saying. So that's my episode for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this. Please like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time. Bye.